Before we discuss Atomic Heart, we need to quickly touch on something else. 2007 was a ridiculously good year for gaming. Stalker 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 2, Tools of Destruction, Super Mario Galaxy, Crysis, Portal, COD 4, God of War 2, Assassin's Creed, Halo 3, Uncharted 1, TF2, Mass Effect 1, Ratatouille, damn it! But no Elden Ring news in 2007, so it was actually a very bad year for video games. Until in my opinion, Bioshock is one of the most interesting video games of all time. It still holds up 14 years later, and it has one of the most interesting worlds in any medium. And it's a true testament to that world's uniqueness that Bioshock is such a beloved game because, like I mentioned in my E3 Indies video, Bioshock's game structure is kinda poopy. Bioshock structurally is Fetch Quest the video game. I swear, your displacement from the beginning to the end of the game is like 100 feet, but in order to make it past the locked room in the beginning, you gotta go over here for a key, but that person will only give you the key if you do 7 front flips while doing lines of cocaine off of an old slipper, so you go here to learn gymnastics, and then you go down here to learn how to do lines of cocaine off a slipper, but then you realize, oops, I don't have a slipper, so you gotta come back over here. And then you finally get the key and then come over here and open the door and walk 5 feet. And there's another goddamn locked door. Everyone's favorite level in this game is the one where the goal is take pictures of these things and then slap them onto this weird looking art piece. That's all you're doing. That is the best mission in the game. And yet somehow through atmosphere, level design, art design, voice acting, chilling dialogue, harrowing looks into this dystopian society, and of course some pretty underrated gameplay, Bioshock becomes one of the greatest video games of all time. It's insane. 90% of the time your driving forces throughout this game are stupid and contrived, but it doesn't matter because Rapture is something else. In the title or thumbnail of this video, you probably saw me compare Atomic Heart to Bioshock, but I need to clear something up. By this comparison, I don't mean that Atomic Heart is some kind of spiritual successor to Bioshock or effectively Bioshock 4 or even all that similar to Bioshock, although the two games have some clear shared mechanics and genres for sure. What I mean is that in the same way that Bioshock gave us a truly unique experience and universe, one that is difficult to compare to anything really, both before and since its release, I believe Atomic Heart has the potential to do the exact same. So in a way, if this game succeeds, it'll be nothing like Bioshock because it'll be like nothing else, but in that way it'll be a lot like Bioshock. Okay, I may have created an infinite recursive loop and my brain is shutting down now. Doing a video about Atomic Heart before release seems like a dangerous task, if I'm being honest. I've made some pre-release videos on both Sifu and Little Devil Inside, but both of those games seem like they're safer bets to me than Atomic Heart, even though one of them has been in development for a very long time with minimal updates and is an ambitious title from a new studio. At the very least, we've seen a handful of somewhat complete looking systems for this game years before its release, and with games that go for less photorealistic and dense settings, you have a better chance of not running into any major technical problems. The same can't necessarily be said about Atomic Heart. This is a group of independent developers who are trying to make a game that looks cutting edge graphically, and while they've shown off gameplay, as far as I'm aware, they haven't shown a lot of major mechanics that are going to be in the game, like crafting or modding weapons, the puzzle solving elements, and anything about the story aside from a very quick synopsis. The thing is, despite my worries that maybe this game, which was supposed to release 2 years ago and as of today still doesn't have a release date, although I smell one coming in the next few months, is stuck in development hell and way too ambitious for its own good, leading potentially to a biomutant situation, I can't help but be excited because everything that we have seen of this game is just it's like pretty good. Atomic Heart is an upcoming FPS ARPG set in an alternate timeline during the mid-1900s where civilization has advanced much more rapidly than in ours and has resulted in an incredibly advanced world with a sinister underbelly. Sound like anybody you know? What I think distinguishes Atomic Heart from a game like Bioshock is its willingness to go batshit insane and throw every crazy idea it can at your face. The original Bioshock game has some iconic and incredibly well-realized NPCs in the Little Sisters, Big Daddies, and Splicers, but that's where the buck kind of stops. You have variations on Splicers, but they all share quite a few resemblances, especially visually. In an effort to create a world with rules and have enemies and citizens follow those rules and fit into the lore of Rapture, the number of enemy types that were succinctly and significantly different from one another had to be kept low. A lot of ideas were even left on the cutting room floor in order to ensure that. With Atomic Heart, it feels like the developers are either planning to care a tiny bit less about justifying a solid reason for every single one of these creations to exist, or they're planning on having a lot of the aspects of the game world be a bit more independent rather than having every piece fit into a meticulous puzzle. And while those more focused, interconnected ideas are part of what makes Bioshock so great, Atomic Heart's approach could be potentially just as effective. Look at everything they've shown here. Opening shot, boom, what is this? It's a rectangle-headed roly-poly-oly unicycle Segway whose head opens up, and what's in there? Apples? Could somebody explain what? Oh, and there's this gigantic explosion on the side with chunks of meat flying everywhere, suspended in time as this apple storage robot does a little dance around you. You got some crazy neurological chips. You have a buzzsaw that looks and acts almost like a mechanical arm complete with coiling fingers, and oh look, it's a gigantic robot coming right at you. Oh, look, now it's a vertically challenged robot. I appreciate the diversity. Never mind, I guess this is Bioshock. I'm sorry, is that a Hitler mannequin? This dude is somehow floating because he's connected to a drone by a limp rope, so physics, I guess. What? Is it possible to run out of confusion? Here's a grandma with a ladle. Here's the Spider-Man drone thing that he has in the new movies. Okay, wait, so this definitely is Bioshock. Hitler mannequin again. And this is all just from the same most recent 1-minute trailer. This isn't even all the crazy stuff we've seen, like some bonkers looking ranged and melee weapons, deeply atmospheric locations, and other crazy enemies like this bad boy who I'd assume is inspired at least somewhat by Prey. My reaction to a lot of what happened in Bioshock was whoa, but my hope for Atomic Heart is that my reactions are instead gonna be, what? Hear me out, Bioshock is BoJack Horseman and Atomic Heart is Rick and Morty. Both of these worlds are pretty nutty, but BoJack makes a concerted effort to even explain how the food in this world works if all the animals talk and stuff. It's a wild premise, but everything it does fits into the main idea of the show and the initial craziness. It creates a very well realized universe. Rick and Morty is like its lunatic cousin. The absolute randomness and insanity on screen and the new ideas being introduced left and right is part of what leads to the most toxic parts of its fan base, which is a bit unfortunate, but it's also what makes the show so fun to watch. They usually try to create a reason for everything and cross ideas over, but so many things are independent from one another, which lets them go as insane as possible. Now, I'm not saying that I think Atomic Heart will have a paper-thin story and just rely on introducing weird things to the character as often as possible. If that's the case, then we'll end up with an eclectic but somewhat disappointing end product. But I will say that my biggest worry for the game is in the story. It's always hard to make a claim like that before a game comes out because you have no idea if some of the gameplay elements are going to end up under-delivering or being straight up broken, but I think that as long as the gameplay isn't horrendous, the biggest thing Atomic Heart needs to do to succeed is have a compelling story that actually gives some kind of reason for the insanity that you're watching on screen. I want the game to hit me with weird designs and out of the blue ideas, but also tell me why this thing was created in the first place, and have it connect to the mystery that we're meant to be solving in this game, and preferably not through super long journal entries or something. Those are nice to gain some extra little detail on the specifics of what you encounter, but if I choose not to read them, I should still understand at least a little of what's going on with everything. Apparently your character in this game, a KGB agent who's sent to find out why a certain facility has gone silent, is unstable. And I think you could do some amazing things with this world mixed with a main character whose mind's kind of on the fritz. And if Munfish, who is the developer of this game, has figured out how to marry your engagement, exploration, and place in the story with this circus of a game world, I think that it's going to dictate whether this game turns out to be an interesting experiment or one of the brightest spots in modern gaming. The last thing I want to touch on here is the gameplay of Atomic Heart. Now, a lot of the proper gameplay we've seen with actual guns being fired or melee weapons being swung is a few years old, so it's tough to know where it's at the moment. But according to a Russian journalist who was able to play a very pre-alpha version of this game, crafting and modding weapons seems to have a solid amount of potential, which is exciting because seeing some of these weapons makes me want to just stick a bunch of random bullshit together and create an insane looking weapon that has very specific stats. And the actual gunplay feels more like what you'd get in a shooter like Metro or Stalker than you'd get in an RPG like Fallout. I recommend that you watch this video, by the way, if you're really interested in this game. It's all in Russian, but it's got some English subtitles. I'll leave it in the description. This guy was able to go and play through some of Atomic Heart at Munfish's studio a year and a half ago, and he goes very in depth about everything that you could possibly want to know about this game. He did a really great job with the video, and considering I'm an incredibly impatient person who hates reading subtitles, it should prove to you how excited I am for Atomic Heart that I watched this entire video in one sitting. There do seem to be powers in this game, and they also seem associated with the character's left hand, so that's another actual similarity this game has to the base mechanics of Bioshock. And while I'm looking for a few unique powers here and there, the thing that I'm more hoping for is just for them to find a way to make everything a lot more visually interesting than other games that we've seen. The feeling of power that you get just looking at this clip of your character yeeting everything in front of you upwards and then keeping it there for a couple seconds is incredible. And I love the spindly little wire implant thing that shoots out of your wrist when you're shooting lightning or you're using a health kit. These are just nice touches to things that we've seen in some capacity before already, and honestly, as long as these things look fresh and unique, I don't care quite as much whether they're lifted from games before it. Out of every game that I'm aware of that's currently in development, I think that Atomic Heart might honestly have the most potential. While there are a lot, and I mean a lot of places where it could fall flat and not deliver in its final product, which makes me almost a bit worried to be excited for this game, the reason for that is that it's reaching for the stars in almost every aspect, from the gameplay to story to world building to design. The project seems to be stemming from the unbridled imagination of a group of experienced developers, and it has the chance to further break down the barrier between often more imaginative indies and more generic AAA games that I mentioned in my Returnal video. Games like this, if they succeed, are so crucial in moving the medium forward, so for the sake of the studio, the eager fans, and video games as a whole, I truly hope Atomic Heart lives up to the hype. Because I also don't want this video to age like milk. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this look into one of the most exciting upcoming titles in years, in my opinion. If you did and you enjoyed me specifically, I guess, subscribe to see more. I've got tons of videos, short and long, on both upcoming games and games that have already released. I would recommend checking out my video on Little Devil Inside if you're interested in other ambitious upcoming titles, and my video on Returnal if you're interested in unique and adventurous big budget games that are already out. Leave a comment if you had any thoughts on the video, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.